Hey guys, another one take review, and today I wanted to talk about the new PUP album, The Unraveling of Pup the Band. The Unraveling of Pup the Band is the latest album from punk band PUP, as well as what may be their most hyped so far. I mean, really, this is kind of an album that people have been definitely excited for, and I think that is largely to thank their last album, Morbid Stuff from 2019, which got a fair amount of very positive critical reception. While I don't think that The Unraveling of Pup the Band is the band's best record so far, I do think it's another example of their consistency. My main irritation with The Unraveling of Pup the Band is the fact that it's just sort of repetitious. And I don't necessarily mean that as far as the track list for the album itself, I mean that in the way of Pup's overall discography. Beyond making things more melodic and glossy and a bit more pop-oriented, the band's latest album doesn't do anything particularly new that they hadn't done on their last two records. While I do find it hard to fault a band that can take one formula and do it well while slightly changing it up with each album, at least enough to tell albums apart. I mean, AC/DC is one of my favorite bands, so I kind of have to have a love for those kind of bands. I still can't help but feel like the unraveling of Pup the Band kind of feels like almost less like a new Pup album and more like a slight nudge to just go listen to an album like Morbid Stuff instead. The unraveling of Pup the Band doesn't see Pup repeat themselves in every sense, however. Their latest release kind of feels more like typical indie rock, typical alternative rock, but with a slight bite more than through and through punk. Pup have come a long way from their post-hardcore origins in their self-titled debut album, and even though their sound hasn't changed a ton in the basic sense, I do think there's been a lot of tweaks to their music over the years to appeal to people looking for a less violent sound. While I understand where the band are coming from with making this decision, I feel like there are a handful of tracks throughout their latest record that could have used a bit of a punky kick to them to really reach their full potential. Songs like Relentless are solid cuts, but at the same time, I can't help but feel like they lack the punchiness that would be there if there were just more hardcore or punk influences injected directly into the record. It's only when songs like Waiting or Pup the Band Incorporated is filing for bankruptcy take on those louder and more aggressive influences that the band truly begin to shine. I'd also like to clarify this isn't me trying to make a call for Pup remaking their first album or directly going back to their roots that go back to their earliest material. This is me saying that Pup should go back to their hardcore roots and take them further than they ever did before, that melodic post-hardcore. I'd love to see something that embraces that even more than their debut. The instrumentation throughout the unraveling of Pup the Band is pretty solid, though the only thing that really ever stands out is the guitar work. Steve Slagkowski and Stefan Babcock have a sort of fuzzy guitar tone, the both of them, that is almost kind of surprising and definitely makes for an interesting and at least slightly unique listen in that regard. Although Pup's latest release is pretty tame and predictable in terms of composition, I still do think it's a very respectably performed album. In fact, the only flaw that I can really find in terms of instrumentation with the unraveling of Pup the Band is the fact that drummer Zach Mikula as well as bassist Nestor Chumak don't really get as much time to shine as they're kind of covered up by the whirlwind flurry of guitar work and manage to somehow get even less of a spotlight when they are already secondary punk instruments. I mean, really, who cares about drums and bass in punk? Not a lot of people, unfortunately, even though there are a lot of great punk drummers and bassists over time. And it's just a shame that there was potential here for the two of them to really shine, and it was just kind of squandered. Stefan Babcock's vocals can be a little bit grating at times, especially when accompanied by some of the cheesier examples of lyricism here, like Robot Writes a Love Song, but at the same time, he's a mostly harmless vocalist and frontman. If anything, there are times here or there where his snot-nosed sneer and attitude kind of feel like too much of a callback to the more annoying side of early 2000s pop-punk. As a bit of a side note, the four chords series of songs, which are three songs that are also the three shortest songs on the record, see him take on a piano and vocal structure for each individual song. While you might expect this to further highlight his voice and in turn make these the three weakest songs of the record, they are actually some of the most interesting on the album. Although they are transitional pieces and as such very underdeveloped, I still do think that all of the four-chord songs that are found on here are very different for Pup and very interesting to hear, even if it is almost the exact opposite of those hardcore kind of roots that I was looking for. I digress, I'm getting off track, I'm complaining about things that I cannot change about this album. My point is, Babcock's vocals can be a bit annoying, his presence can be a bit obnoxious, but at the same time, he's a solid enough frontman overall. He doesn't do anything wrong, he doesn't ruin the album or anything like that, he simply exists while he and the band play. Overall, the unraveling of Pup the Band isn't nearly as good as albums like The Dream Is Over or Morbid Stuff. What it is, however, is proof that Pup are more than just a one or two album wonder band. While there is certainly a lot I would change about this album, as you can tell from my numerous criticisms that I've given throughout this video, I still think that this is a good sign for them as a group, and it makes me continuously expect and want more greatness from Pup. I think that the unraveling of Pup the Band, again, while not their best album, is definitely a promising sign for their future, which is why I'm going to happily give it 3.5 stars out of 5. It's not an amazing album, it's not something I would say is like a you have to listen to this or you haven't heard punk for 2022 or anything like that, but at the same time, I definitely think it's something that's worth checking out if you like their previous albums or you just want to hear some new indie rock, pop punk kind of stuff. So yeah, 3.5 stars out of 5. And with that being said, that's the end of this review, and I'll see you guys in the next one.